Well, is the second phase of the war with Iran coming? Russia just released a pretty stunning statement. According to Russia's Ministry of Defense, new strikes against Iran are being planned and they are coming. Insiders in D.C. are telling Redacted that this is the case, that this is actively being discussed and ready to move into an action phase now. And just like that, Bibi arrived at the White House for his fourth visit in 8 months. Bibi, the name Bibi makes him sound like just a friendly little fella, huh? Mm-hmm. So he arrives in Washington, D.C., his fourth visit in 8 months. As Steve Bannon pointed out, normally there'd be like a whole color guard welcoming, him. No, there was none of that this time. That's the first time Steve Bannon said he's ever seen that. There was really no welcome dog and pony show for him. And the last time this happened, it happened just days later. Israel and the United States launched part 1 of the war against Iran. So part 2 is coming. Also overnight, a wave of U.S. air tankers have been deployed to Europe. Again, the last time that this happened was right before the attacks on Iran. 8 U.S. Air Force tankers are on their way to Europe. Again, the last time that this happened was right before the attacks. Again, this could be for exercise purposes, as Zero Hedge points out. Also, today, Bibi, Trump meeting discussing the end of the Gaza war. So what's going on here? Sort of a peace plan. Just in, the White House releases the map and details of Trump's Gaza peace plan. Israel will not occupy or annex the Gaza Strip. Gaza will become a terror-free zone, whatever that means, and will be, quote, redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza, end quote, whatever that means. The deal also includes a prisoner swap. Joining us to discuss all of these latest developments is the editor of one of our favorite websites, antiwar.com, is Dave DeCamp. And Dave, welcome back to the show. Great to see you. I also love that you guys were able to get that URL however many years ago. The fact that that URL wasn't already swept up by somebody is pretty telling, that no one wants to talk about being anti-war and pro-peace. It's amazing that you're like, hey, let's look and see if this URL is available. Oh, it is, because people love war. Good to see you, Dave.
Yeah, it is pretty great because it's so easy to remember, antiwar.com. I have to give credit to my boss, Eric Garris, who founded the site. They started it in 1995, so it's been around a long time.
It's crazy to think that no one grabbed that because people are definitely pro-war. So give me your sense of, first of all, just the Russian report and the reports that we're hearing at Redacted, I'm sure you're hearing the same thing, that they are preparing for active strikes against Iran. Call it part 2 of the Iran war. We knew that this was coming. You guys, we talked last time that this was an inevitability. Are you surprised by Russia's statement on this?
No, I'm not. I mean, and this is what Iran has been saying as well. The president, the Ayatollah, they're saying, and the military. I mean, basically since the ceasefire, the Iranian military has been saying that they're getting prepared for round 2. And as we discussed last time, if there was no real change when it comes to the situation with Iran, that it was inevitably going to happen again. And a big thing that just happened over the weekend was the snapback sanctions. And these are UN Security Council sanctions that were lifted on Iran in 2015 when they signed the Iran nuclear deal, that the UK, France, and Germany triggered these sanctions to be reimposed. Essentially, they did this because they were set to expire in October. But, they did this essentially on behalf of the U.S., and this is a sign that the Trump administration is not really interested in a deal in diplomacy with Iran, because they just put a whole nother big obstacle in the way of any deal, these UN Security Council sanctions. And Russia, why I wasn't surprised to see this Russian statement about the potential attack on Iran. Russia came out very strongly against these snapback sanctions. And Russia and China tried to stop them at the UN Security Council, but that vote failed. And they basically said that, they don't recognize these sanctions, that these sanctions are illegal. So it goes to show Russia's probably not going to follow them, because it does include an arms embargo on Iran, which, if that's something that Russia implemented, would kind of be a big deal when it comes to Russia-Iran relations, but it doesn't look like they're going to go with that. So yeah, all signs pointing to a war. And a big thing here is Netanyahu at the White House now. So 2 big things happened today. I'm sure you guys saw that Bibi apparently called up the Prime Minister of Qatar and said he was sorry for bombing them. The White House put out a statement on this. And then Trump and Netanyahu come out with this big press conference. The White House releases this vision for a Gaza ceasefire plan. it's kind of a whole nother topic to get into. But the point I want to make when it comes to Iran is that Netanyahu is a very transactional person. You know, if he's coming to the White House to call up Qatar and say that he's sorry, to publicly agree to this Gaza ceasefire proposal, he's going to want things in return. And I think one of those things could be a commitment for another war with Iran.
Jeez.
With Qatar, so you think Qatar would support this somehow? I mean, we see Saudi Arabia, another power in that region, just looks the other way. That's all they really do. So who else would we need to sign off on a war with Iran?
Well, I think Qatar is probably not thrilled about this idea because they know that if there's another war with Iran, they're probably going to get hit because we have the U.S. bases are there. So I don't think it's a matter of getting Qatar to agree with it. It's more of a matter of getting Trump to kind of, you know, this whole attack on Qatar, like Trump and the Trump administration claim that they weren't aware of Israel's plans, that they just started bombing them, and we tried to tell them, but you know, we ran out of time. But according to Israeli officials, which in this story, I'm inclined to believe them, Trump was notified by Netanyahu before the bombs, you know, the Israeli planes started dropping the bombs on Qatar, and he did not oppose or try to stop it. But so Trump is trying to kind of distance himself from this attack on Qatar, which he does view as a valuable ally. So I think in that sense, this is something that, in a transactional sense, this is something that more that Trump wanted. Obviously, Qatar wanted it too, but I think this is more of Netanyahu trying to placate Trump to get backing for another round of attacks on Iran.
That's
but it's
unbelievable
so hard
bargaining
to
chip.
believe what their relationship is. And we're always trying to parse the tea leaves. And last week, Trump was asked, what do you feel about Israel annexing the West Bank? Basically just going in full steam ahead because Trump is letting them do it. And he says, no, I'm not going to let them do it. But we can't put any stock in that, right?
Yeah. I mean, with Trump, I mean, this time around, it's like I've almost started ignoring his statements on Gaza, on Israel, because he says, you know, for months now, he's been saying, oh, we're close to a deal. And Israel just started this huge offensive to just completely destroy Gaza City. If you look at what their plans are, they want to remove the entire Palestinian population and raze every single building to the ground. So they go ahead with this offensive, as Trump's saying that there's some kind of deal on the table, you know, deal about to happen. But when it comes to the West Bank, I think it's important, you know, Israel may not have officially, formally annexed the West Bank or territory in the West Bank, but they continue to expand the settlements, which is de facto annexation. That is Israel taking control of this land. And this new big settlement expansion that they signed off on involves forcibly displacing thousands of Palestinians from their homes, from their villages. So this continues. And that's another thing, you know, Trump might be able to get out of Netanyahu, you know, that you're not going to officially declare that you've annexed the West Bank and in exchange for something. But you know, I think Netanyahu now, he's going to be going home to a lot of angry members of his government who want the West Bank annexation, who don't want to agree to any kind of Gaza deal. So it's tough to really know what's happening behind the scenes, the deals that he's making. But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we still saw some kind of symbolic annexation, them declaring, you know, the settlements officially part of Israel, which I don't want to downplay, because that would basically mean that there's no going back, you know, that the Palestinians are never getting this land back.
Right. I mean, well, as Trump, you know, says in this statement, or as the press release has come out from this statement, this area will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza. What does that mean? Who are the people of Gaza at this point?
Yeah, good point.
So just want to know who that, you know, doesn't really make any sense. But I think I want to kind of go back to, I think the Iranian point here that you made is very important, that this is really a bargaining chip, that Netanyahu, or Milikowski, whatever you want to call him, is definitely very transactional. He comes to Washington, D.C. because he wants something in return. He wants the United States air support. He wants the refueling tankers there. We saw that in the case of the UK helping with refueling for missions over Iran as well. So he wants these things in return for some sort of, I don't know, paying lip service to peace in Gaza. We'll do this. We'll work with you on this. You're going to help us bomb Iran. That's really what you believe is happening here.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think that there's a good chance that that's kind of the behind the scenes dealings. And unfortunately, so, you know, it's tough to say. I can't say what's going to happen with this Gaza ceasefire proposal. Now Hamas says, you know, they're studying it. There's certain points in it that I cannot, you know, that it's unlikely Hamas would accept, including them disarming. Essentially, their position has been that they'll, you know, lay down their weapons if there's a Palestinian state or if there's a Palestinian force that can replace them, a Palestinian armed force. And this plan calls for some kind of foreign international force, you know, made up of from Arab countries, and also puts Gaza under the supervision of some sort of, I forget exactly what they call it, but they like a peace board that Trump is going to head and Tony Blair is going to be involved in, apparently. So yeah, there you go. So these are, you know, essentially a foreign imposed government here that they're trying to push for. So, you know, what I see probably happening is Hamas kind of responding, trying to amend certain points in this. And then Israel and Netanyahu just saying, well, that's it. They rejected it. Time to go,
Right.
you know, go back in. And Trump said at the press conference that if Hamas rejects it, you know, we'll back you, you know, to finish the job
100%.
in Gaza.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, finish the job. Yeah.
But what
Yeah, which is
happens to
very
Israel,
ominous.
though, given that, given the low level of support, given this full-on Hasbara PR push, where they're trying to get young people to understand that Israel is their friend and why they need to continue this support, what is that repairable at all?
Well, I mean, I really think there is a big change happening in the U.S. when it comes to support for Israel. I mean, it's very obvious. It's a very obvious thing to say. But I mean, I think it is very significant and substantial, especially on the right, because this is, you know, the Republican base has always been so pro-Israel. And you still see it, obviously, in Congress that with the exception of, like, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey, you're still seeing the Republican Congress completely in support of whatever Israel does. But the fact that you have young people, Gen Z, millennials, who just, I know from my experience, you know, kind of their position used to be like they would be pro-Israel by default. Say, you know, oh, the left is pro-Palestinian, our guys are pro-Israel, and, you know, it's simple, that's that. But now it's become, there's just too much happening. It's just become an untenable position because of the atrocities that they see being committed in Gaza every day, and the U.S. completely, you know, then now the kind of control of our politicians by Israel is more obvious. And also the U.S. just completely expending its diplomatic credibility and using all it, you know, launching a war on Iran on behalf of Israel. I mean, there's no hiding that that's what that was. So there's a reckoning happening, you know, on the American right. And Israel's really in trouble. And that's why you see Netanyahu meeting with influencers, you know, when he's in New York and talking about using social media as a weapon. So,
Oh, yeah. I mean, the video that went viral over the past 24 hours is him talking to influencers. And he even he even calls them class at one point. He's like, what's the biggest threat right now? The biggest problem? Class?
X.
No, well, but it was TikTok, you know, so that was the answer. TikTok and X are his two biggest problems. You think we're going to talk to Elon, we're going to shape him up. And then maybe that's why the algorithm has been flooding your For You feed lately with all of these like pro-Zionist messages. It's crazy. But hey, they got TikTok. They were going after TikTok. They got that one. I guess X is next.
Yeah, they've secured the algorithm, as the White House put it. And that's another thing, you know, I think that's a big part of Netanyahu's calculation, is that he knows that he's in trouble long term when it comes to support from the U.S. So that, I think, would make him more desperate, you know, really want to go through with the big war with Iran, which is, you know, obviously they want regime change. They want to basically neuter the Iranian military. So that's all factored into his thinking here. And,
Yeah,
you know,
got to get
another
the
thing
social
with
media influencers out there. You got to get the Hasbara messages out there. You've got to attack people that question it. You got to marshal everything right now to shore up support, because the young people absolutely have no support for Netanyahu and what he's doing. So they're losing the young people like crazy. They've got to they need massive amounts of propaganda right now. Dave, thank you so much. The website is antiwar.com. Check out their great coverage. Always, you know, way ahead of the curve on what's going on right now with the beating of the war drum. As always, great to see you, Dave. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Good to see you guys.
Our pleasure.